Hello aqua friends, welcome to my channel and happy Halloween. I do have a Halloween inspired video for you today, and we're going to use a few supplies like plastic wrap and my favorite adhesive film for blocking out large objects. We'll also use a teeny bit of masking fluid, and basically you do want to mask out your pumpkin any way you would like to. I got some inspiration here from a couple of photos I found on Pixabay. So thinking in layers, the best way to go about this, I think, was masking out the pumpkin, and I wanted to outline the moon a bit so I didn't lose that paper white. And the whole background needs to be pretty dark, so I'm wetting everything really well with my flat brush. And for the dark colors, I am mixing together some indigo blue and some neutral tint. For the green, I'm using Daniel Smith's permanent green. Now, around where all the green smoke is coming from, I have to still add in some grays, but I'm just doing it very sparingly. And as I get along the outside edges of my painting, I do want to increase that saturation of color. And I'm just going about putting this gray everywhere. Now comes the fun part, and make some squiggly lines for the green smoke. I'm using a size 4 script liner brush, and I'm just having fun with it. Notice just making a lot of squiggly lines, trying to mimic that smoke coming up, especially dropping in a lot at the base where the pumpkin is. Now my paper's drying, so I just kind of spritzed a little bit of extra water there to get that moisture back, bringing in those navy blue colors from the indigo on the bottom. Blues and oranges are contrasting, and it would be nice to have in some of this dark blue along with the neutral tint. So I'm just getting the bottom of my paper really nicely saturated with a lot of pigment and bringing that up in a sort of vignette effect around the edges of my painting. Again, if your paper's starting to dry, just use a fine mist bottle sprayer and spray your painting. I'm using a quill brush, a fumey brush. So once I'm happy with that amount of darkness that I have along the edges, I'm going to bring a little bit more at the very bottom and add my plastic wrap. Now the plastic wrap will create some really cool textures in that foreground. While my paper is still wet, I am adding some branches, and I'm looking at those reference photos with those gnarly trees as inspiration to try to get my tree branches all crazy looking. And it is still wet, so it's going to soften and be a very cool out of focus look. Now my paper is still damp, and I'm adding in some more green because all of those lines, squiggly lines, kind of all phased out too much, and I wanted some sort of definition. Plus, it's just so much fun painting squiggly lines. Let's be honest. All right, so you're going to let all your painting dry, And then in hindsight, I'll tell you right now, I did have a hard time with this pumpkin, and I would go about doing it differently. But I'll get to that in a bit. I'll show you where I messed up. But I thought it would be a good idea to get in the glowing eyes, nose, and mouth. And so I'm working with these bright colors. I do have some cadmium yellow. I have a more warmer yellow with the ISO yellow deep color. And then I also have cadmium orange and transparent pyrrole orange as the really bright oranges. So that's what's in my palette, and that's what I'm going for here. So once you have all the cutout face parts done, I am just going ahead and doing the pumpkin stalk. And for that, I did use shadow green and neutral tint. So once I dried the face and I started wetting the pumpkin to put the pumpkin color in, and I think this is pretty much where I went wrong. It is extremely hard to paint around all those areas and keep your paper dry. In hindsight, I should have blocked out those colors that I just did, the face. I should have added my transparent film to the face and then painted the pumpkin. So if I had to do it again, guys, I would do that because it is hard to paint around all these nooks and crannies. But I tried my best. I did put the bright spot on his forehead with a little bit of cobalt blue. And then I'm using really thick mixtures of the orange. That's going to be the first layer because as you can notice from the reference photo, he's quite dark. He's like an orangey black color, but we needed to get the orange layer on there first before I could go in with the top layer of my neutral tint. So I'm doing my best to get this orange in, and like you can see, I am having a hard time. It was a challenge. All right, so my orange is not quite dark enough. I'm drying that later, and I'm coming back in with a darker version of the orange just so it's more opaque. And if I had gouache, I think I probably would have used gouache to do the pumpkin. It would have been much, much easier. That is on my to-do list, folks. If anybody paints in gouache, please drop me a line below. I would love to hear from you, how you got started. I want to take some courses on it, and I'm gonna look around on some channels. If anybody has any people they admire that do the gouache, drop me a line of who's your favorite artist is so that I could learn too. All right, so I'm doing better here. This is looking like the orange that I need before I go into the black. So I'm pretty happy with the saturation level that I have of the orange right now. For the neutral tints area, I did decide In order to get some nice outlines and flowing lines, I used my temporary adhesive paper to cover up the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. Now, the problem is that I dried, or so I thought, my pumpkin with my heating tool, and I didn't quite dry him enough, because after I put on this layer of the neutral tint, you can see that it is bleeding underneath my film. And so that caused me to have problems with cleaning up the eyes, the nose, and the mouth afterwards. Along with that layer of neutral tint on the pumpkin, I added some more darkness in the foreground and added the plastic wrap again. Now you're going to let that dry completely and take off that plastic wrap. See, you could tell all the messed up areas from the paint leaking underneath. So I had to then lift out the paint to get all of my sharp edges back and to get that glowing effect back. But that's okay, live and learn, right? So hopefully you are more patient than me and you let your stuff dry and you won't have to go through this step. And then as a final touch, I am adding some more squiggly lines and brush underneath my pumpkin with a script liner brush. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove my masking fluid from the moon. And with a little piece of magic eraser and my brush, I'm lifting out more areas of the moon so that it has a nice glowing effect. After my paper is really dry, I'll add in the bats. I'm using a fine detail brush for this. If you want your foreground to be a little darker, I'm adding in some more meandering lines, especially right under the pumpkin. And I do feel like he pops really nicely in the foreground. I really love how this turned out. I did want to continue that sort of outlining effect, but this time I'm just using a marker. With the marker, I'm outlining his mouth, nose, and eyes, and it just really makes that face pop. After that, I'm removing my tape. Hope you guys like this Halloween inspired tutorial, and happy Halloween. I'll see you guys next time.